Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting, coming to you today with the next session in the Alpha Wolf Personal Development and Expansion series. And this session is going to be all about understanding this idea of states of play and understanding how our physiology is altered and changed by the perception we give to how and what we are doing. So when we understand states of play, we just understand these are heightened states of enjoyment. These are heightened states of happiness, joy, fulfillment, contentment. So when we think about a state of play is the moment in the game where you cease to think about anything that is external to the game. So to understand this, sorry about the bell, old Rob's having a ding, but to understand this, what we're looking at understanding is this concept or idea of heightened states of being, states where I feel ecstasy, states where I feel boundless pleasure in each action that I do and how I create these. So, what we're looking to understand is this conceptualization of play and what play means in terms of play is not what the Western academics say play is, where they say it's a state of, you know, time wasted, where it's a state where we're non-productive. We have this idea in our mind that play is non-productive. And that is the wrong way to look at it because what we are trying to do in life, if we want to connect this one to life through spirituality, is we are trying to connect to the states of play. So, should I fear God and worship in serious fear of everything that's happening? Am I connecting to God? Do you sort of understand? Am I connecting to the energy that I seek if I'm using fear as my motivation, my motivating force, or the reason for why I'm doing it? So, do I create, for example, content or marketing for my business because I fear being outdone? Or do I create it as a way to connect with the external environment? Do you sort of see like our decision making? Okay. And that's what players to connect with what I'm doing, to connect with who I'm with, to connect with the energy that is around me. So in isolation, I can be in a state of bliss and play. In a group setting, I can be in a state of bliss and play. Like it doesn't really matter. It's an internal state of being. So when we understand my states of being are not external to me, they are internal to me. I do not need to concern myself with the external environment because the internal environment can always be pleasure and bliss. So Sadhguru talks about this one. And, being a yogic, he has very specific, teachings and practices and all of this. But essentially, when we understand and mix these beliefs with Taoism, and we understand that there is nothing to achieve, should I want to be in a state of play, as soon as I realize I want to be in a state of play, I can be in a state of play. I don't have to do anything to get there. I don't have to meditate for 10 hours to get into a state of play. Like that's the illusions of having to have and do things before I can choose to feel what I want to feel. So you may say that, oh, before I can feel successful, I have to have a successful business. Like you do realize in the moment of saying that it is consciously your choice and you are determining that I have to have this before I will allow myself to feel that way. So we just understand that it is decisions by us. We can be, do, and have whatever we want in life, but the decision lies with us to if we want to have it or if we want to look like we have it. So do I want to feel successful or do I want to look successful? Do I want to look successful to other people or feel successful within myself? Do you sort of get it? We understand that I can choose to be in a state of play with my life, or I can choose to say that I need these categories, I need these variables, I need these factors before I'm allowed to be in a state of play in life. Do you sort of get it? So, like anything can become play, anything can put you in a state of play. If you are determining that, for example, in my career, it's all serious, it's all business, it's all, I have to know every step that I'm taking because I'm a strategist and all of this, blah, blah, blah. Like you are creating your business or your career as not being a state of play, as being a state in which I am serious, in which I have to be on the lookout for every negative thing that's coming to get me. Do you sort of see? When we become serious, we become stressed naturally because serious is a state of stress. It's not a state of focus, but it is a state of stress. When I'm serious, I have to be observant of my environment. Something may happen. I have to be observant of the people around me. So you'll notice this in your own life, different environments that you go into. If we're going into a party, do we walk into that party all serious and up our own arse? Or do we walk into that party in a state of play and willing to be in that state of play? Do you sort of get it? Like, do I walk into the party and the party feels relaxed, or do I walk into the party and the party's creating stress? Now, I can say that it's the external environment of the party, but we both know that's bullshit. It's my internal state of being and the terminology or the perspective or perception I have created around that environment that determines how I am allowed to feel. So if I'm in a party and my three best mates are there, I'm allowed to be at more play. If I'm at a party and I don't know anyone, I'm not allowed to be at a state of play. Do you sort of see it? Like we are the ones that create any shifts in our frequency because we control the frequency through our thoughts, through our emotions, through our feelings, through our behavior, through our actions, through our words, through our tonal shifts. Maybe I want to go high. And when I go into a high and I start to change the, I can't think of the word, but I changed the tonal frequency or well, not the tonal frequency, but I changed the speed of my voice. I change how I speak, and that changes the energy that I give off. Do you sort of get it? Like I can talk very stern and low and stable, or I can talk very sing-songy. So we just understand that I am changing my frequency of energy just through the tonal shifts and the way in which I position my words. Okay, the way in which I pronounce them, the way in which I say them, the cadence. That was the word we were looking for, cadence. The cadence of my speech can determine if I need more energy to promote more energy or if I need less energy. So we just understand when we say that we're trying to get in with the energy of life, this is it. Like, do you sort of get it? It's not like this ooh magic thing. It's in understanding the different energetic states within me and how they influence and affect not only those in my external environment, but influence my internal environment. So when I speak in more cadence, I feel more energized. Do you sort of get it? So we just understand these states of play can be created in anything. A state of play is just ridiculous. Do you sort of get it? Non-logical. So we're giving into the sort of, so to speak, the subconscious, where I'm not trying to logically choose my cadence or choose my tone, where I'm bouncing around with it. So when we understand this, these are what flow states are. When we're trying to get into these heightened productive and heightened areas of focus, what we are trying to do is add the element of ridiculousness. Okay, so that element of un, no, non-structure or non-linear structure. So the structuring doesn't follow the same path. So it's not to say that we're out of structure. For example, when I'm jumping around in the cadence, my tonalities are on point. They're within the structure of the tonality. Like my language is on point. I'm not losing my language because of the cadence. Do you sort of get it? So I mean, I'm doing ridiculous in a structured way to where, for example, when I walk down the street, I can look at my feet and look at every step where it's going to be, or I can raise my eyes up and enjoy the scenery and sort of add that element of ridiculousness into my walking. Maybe there's a drop in the road and I drop down a bit. Maybe I trip over something. Do you sort of see? I don't need to see every step because it's that element of ridiculousness or need to control, that lack of structure that allows me to look further. Do you sort of get it? So when I don't think about the conversation and everything that I have to say, I can listen to what other people are saying to me. I can interpret it. I can digest it, so to speak. So we just understand that when I lose this need for seriousness in life, I am allowed to let go to the need of control, which allows and frees up mental focus for me to be able to do more. So when I want to get into, a heightened productive state of writing, well, I'm not going to sit there and try and, write the best word or try and structure the best language. Like I'm going to give in to the state of ridiculousness where I just start talking or just start typing and I allow it to flow and evolve. Do you sort of get it? If I'm trying to structure everything and make it perfect, there is no connection to the energy. And the energy, as we've found out, is literally just the shifts and frequencies within our own energetic state. So we understand that to flow through life and to be perceived as someone who wins and succeeds in everything in life, we simply take failure out of the equation and then we take seriousness or need for control out of the equation. And that frees up the mental focus for us to be able to see opportunities, for us to be able to explore opportunities. If I'm always worried about this going wrong, if I'm always worried about how it has to be structured, I cannot focus on new opportunities coming in. So I have to pull back from that need. And it's in pulling back from that need that the ridiculousness takes over. For it's like driving without your hands on the steering wheel. Do you sort of get it? Like it's a little bit different because one, we're not going to crash into a tree, and two, we're not moving at that speed. So it's sort of like to understand the analogy is just that when I let go, now I have no control. This is the most absurd and ridiculous environment or situation that I'm in because I'm in a situation where I have no control and I've accepted I have no control and I've let go to the need for control. So now I'm able to experience the situation I'm in and start to play with it. So I lean into it. I let the car guide the road. so to speak. A better analogy would be instead of a car, we use a horse. Because that's the thing. The energy of life, these different states of being are simply just consciousness. All energy is conscious. Energy can direct itself. So we understand this to be a game of me needing to sort of see where I'm going to go, but also this game of me letting go to the need to know where I'm going and to sort of just flow with it. Because then I'm allowed and able to see what do I like, what do I not like. So when we let go to the need of control, we are not letting go to this is just fate. It's that, if I'm driving the car and I let go to the steering wheel and I see myself veering towards a tree, I can grab the steering wheel and turn it and then let go again. Do you sort of get it? Like, I don't need to hold on to the steering wheel the whole time. But if I see myself going into a car wreck, like I simply just turn it. I don't just say, this is fate. Do you sort of get it? So the markers we are looking for is what do I like? What do I enjoy? What creates joy within me? What do I not like? And then to create a state of play or this state of excitement towards it is letting go to the need for the outcome to be what you want it to be and accepting the outcome is the outcome and I'm just in it for the actions. So I don't exercise so that I may look good and build muscle. I exercise for the enjoyment I get and the pleasure I get while I'm exercising. Do you sort of see? And then it becomes a fun game because the outcomes don't matter. I don't need to do this exercise because of this. I don't need to do blah, 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 blah. I'm able to just flow through the exercises and do what feels right to me, what feels good. If I don't like an exercise, I don't have to do it. If I really like an exercise, like for example, for me, high intensity cardio, I absolutely love it. It sucks more than anything in the world. Do you sort of get it? So I'm able to lean in and do more of that without the need to have to do bench press to build up my chest. Like, do you sort of get it? Like we can have this structure of how it has to be. And then it becomes serious and stressful. If I don't do enough on chest today, I'm not going to grow my chest at the right rate. If I blah, 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 blah. Do you sort of get it? So, like when you think about achieving goals and succeeding in your career and succeeding in life, if I'm walking the path and moving towards it, it doesn't really matter if I achieve it or if I don't achieve it in the moment. For walking the path is guaranteed to achieve it. So, do I want to be stressed walking the path? When am I going to get there? When am I going to get there? When am I going to get there? Or do I want to enjoy the path? And have a look around and maybe see, is there any tasty treats along this path that I may have? You know what I mean? Is there anything that I don't want to, do? Maybe there's a really muddy spot. So I have to go off track and off the path and come back. Like if I'm rigid and structured to, I have to walk this path, then I have to walk through that mud. Do you sort of get it? Like, and then I'm going to be dirty for the ball, dirty for the dance, so to speak. So we just understand that the more I let go to control or the need to be in control, the more I can flow with life, with the environment, with the situation. The more I flow with this situation, i.e., the more I am in heightened states of being emotionally, energetically, physically, like the better the outcomes are going to be statistically. If I'm happy and I work in sales and I'm always high energy and happy and excited, more people will want to do business with me. I don't have to try and find people to do business with me because just having conversations around business, people will want to do business with me. Do you sort of get it? We're attracting people to us by who we are and how we present ourselves and how we move through the situation. If I'm sitting there always focused on, I've only got 10 leads, I've got to call all of them, I've got to sell all of them, I'm just going to be badgering them on the phone, stressed and anxious. Do you sort of get it? Like, by all means, if you want to live your life in control of a stressed and anxious life, I thank you. You make my life easier because I don't have to worry about you competing with me because you're too worried about competing with yourself. Do you sort of get it? Competing with the ideas of how it has to be and trying to justify to yourself that, it's like people who say that they're into health and fitness and all of this, but their actions and their diet don't show it. It's like you're not trying to convince me that you're healthy. You're trying to convince yourself that you're healthy. You're just trying to get me to validate that what you say is true. Do you sort of see? The war in here is us trying to convince ourselves of all the negative aspects of ourselves that is true. So this need that, like, if I'm in control, I have more power. Like, the funny thing in life is a lot of people seek power in life. The most powerful man in life is the man that does not care. Do you sort of get it? Like, if I do not care, you cannot buy me. If I do not care, you cannot you cannot persuade me from taking actions that I want to take. Do you sort of get it? So, like, if I don't care and you threaten, like, let's say, to kill my family, like, as soon as I make the decision to come after you, what can you do to persuade me? Like, what power do you have over me? I do not care. I'm going to do what I've set out to do. Do you sort of get it? Like, so we understand this in everything in society and how it's set up is he who does not care is the more powerful one or the more dominant one. In the sales situation, the one who's willing to walk away is the one with the power. Like, do you sort of get it? In a relationship, if you care more about me than I care about you, I have control over you. Blah, 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 blah. Do you sort of get it? So everyone's going out fronting like they don't care because they're too afraid to care. A more powerful person than someone who does not care is someone who cares passionately and takes responsibility and accountability. When I take responsibility and accountability and plant my flag and say, this is the beach I fight on, this is the beach I die on, what can anyone do? Do you sort of get it? So as soon as I plant that flag and I say, this is where I make my stand, like I become more powerful than the perceived most powerful person in society, the person who does not care. Do you get it? Like when I plant my flag, it's not that I do not care for my life, but it's that I accept and take accountability for if there is a stand, it is here. Here is where I stand. Should I die? I die. But I'm going to enjoy this fight as long as I can. Do you sort of get it? Nothing negative can happen because I've accepted the worst case being the outcome that I seek. So it's like this idea of if I accept the end of life as death and I choose to see death as not being a negative thing of me losing, but being a positive thing. Like now I'm able to push as hard and as fast through my life and push as far as I can, knowing that at a certain point I will fall. But the fun is to see how far we can go before we fall. Do you get it? Like when I plant my flag and say, this is where I make my stand, I am making the decision that nothing negative can happen to me, for I have already accepted within myself everything negative happening to me. So we understand this as creating a state of play in our last stand. I don't need to be serious, worried about if I'm going to fall, if I'm not. I've accepted I'm going to fall. Let's have some fun. Do you sort of get it? So we create this environment where death is not failure, where death is the culmination of the environment, of the path. So what do I do now? If death is the end of the path I walk, the path I walk is not the path to survive. So what should I do if we are in war? Should I sit there and try and fight for my survival? Or should I find a different reason to fight? Maybe I fight for those around me. Maybe I fight for the enjoyment of the fight. Maybe I fight to push my body and to push myself beyond any known limits, beyond any known pain to ever have been experienced. Maybe when I fall, as I fall in immense pain, I rise again. Why? Why not? Do you sort of get it? Like, if we understand these concepts and we understand this idea of the state of play is just redefining and altering from the need for stress and fear in the situation. When I take stress and fear out of the situation, now what? When I cease to use fear to motivate my behaviors and actions, now what? What am I going to do? So, you know, for a lot of people who are not ready to accept like death, should they stand on that beach, their eyes will always be darting back and forth looking for a way out. They do not see what is coming for them. Do you get it? When I cease to look for a way out, I can now focus on what is coming towards me. Do you know what I mean? When I cease to need self-preservation, I am able to preserve my life. For if I'm always being compelled to preserve my life, I will always seek the safest route. Should I seek to preserve my life within myself, then I seek to create the safety I want or the safety I need. So it's this idea of, should a predator, like a pack of wolves, come down upon you and start surrounding you, you can look and try and survive, or you can accept, this is the funnest fight of my life. Do you understand? Should that alpha move forward, you can move back if you want, and they will run you down. They will hunt you down. Or you can move forward and move through the alpha that steps forward, and then look for the next challenge and the next challenge and the next challenge and see how many does it take to bring you down? Or do you stand at the end, surrounded by the fallen? Do you sort of get it? If all I think about is fear and failure, I doubt every move I make. I look for the alternatives around it. If I accept, failure has already happened. Failure is the end result. Now, this works in no-win situations. Okay, this is when life puts you between a rock and a hard place. You can choose. Do I want to lean back into the hard place, or do I want to headbutt the fucking rock? Who cares if the rock kills me? Do you sort of get it? Like, I get to choose my way out. Maybe I break that rock. Who knows? The power of my belief will determine the power of my strike. This is evident in Kung Fu, and they practice this a lot, understanding that if I believe my hand is stronger than the wood or the brick, my hand can pass through the wood or the brick. If I believe that the wood or the brick is stronger than my hand can never pass through it. Our perception creates our reality. If in a no-win situation, I create this perception that I am in a no-win situation, there is no perceived way I can ever win. If I choose in every situation to remove the loss, failure, to remove the possibility of that, I don't need to know the outcome to do that. I don't need to know the outcome to be able to remove aspects of what I am trying to do. I accept the outcome is the outcome. I do not need to control the outcome. Now I am free to interact and flow through the environment or the situation that I'm in. So should I be in a no-win situation, surrounded by wolves? I remove the need to win. Do you sort of get it? And then I find a different thing that I want. So for me personally, if I'm in no-win situations, I cease to want to survive, and now I just want to have fun hurting things. So should that wolf come for me, I'm gonna rip its jaw off. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna snap its neck. Like I'm gonna go and show them that I am more vicious and violent than they are. For I do not need to care about my sort of, so to speak, my mortality, my survival. When I let go to the need to survive, I can deal with the situation and become bigger than the situation. So we just understand in anything in life that I'm seeking to do, I can seek through fear or I can seek through belief. I can let go to the steering wheel and believe that the car will drive. And how it works in life is the car, well, not to say a car, because the car is an inanimate object, but essentially the car follows the energy of life. Should I choose that I want to retake control and alter that energy of life, I can do that. Should I choose that I want to instill my belief, I can do that. Should I choose I want to let go to the fear and just not even acknowledge crashing as being a part of the outcome, I can do that as well. Do you sort of get it? Like, I get to structure and shape my reality. Who cares what the outcome is? Should I die in that car crash? And should I survive that car crash? And do you sort of get it? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is the funny thing. We all have this idea of needing immortality while we are already immortal. Do you sort of get it? Energy doesn't die. Energy only dissipates and reforms. What we understand as the conscious me is just energy. Like it's already been proven in science. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, who knows what it looks like after? But it's sort of like if you're still fearing death in this mortal life, like, do you sort of get it? You're only focusing on the outcomes of the mortal life. How can you ever connect to the energy of life? but you do not even believe it's real. But to believe it's real is to understand you are a part of it. For you are energy. Do you get it? Like it's already been proven. Like you already know this. Like everyone already knows this. Everyone already knows everything I said to be true because you've experienced it. Like it's evident everywhere. I'm not telling you anything new. I'm simply like helping you to understand what you already know. Why do you think we have these ideas of immortality? Because energy is immortal. Do you sort of get it? Like, why do we have these ideas of spirituality and a God or connection to nature? Because we already know and can connect to God and nature. Like, why do we feel connected to the stars when we look up at night? Because we are connected to the stars when we look up at night. Like, your feelings are the aspect of you that is connected to everything that is around you. Do you sort of get it? Because it's in the subconscious mind that our quantum microtubuli create singular consciousness from the collective consciousness through quantum randomness. When I let go to the need to steer the car, I am letting the universe steer the car. When I let go to the need of the fear of failure, I am letting the universe hold the need for fear of failure, for I do not need it anymore. Do you sort of get it? Like you're already doing everything. It's sort of like this. If I ask you to tell me exactly the different muscles, the different muscle pressures, so the different strength or energy requirements for you to be able to breathe, could you tell me that? Probably not. Who knows? But do you know, like, can you breathe? Yeah. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, we already do everything that we want. Have you ever been happy in life? Yes. You already know how to be happy in life. Do you sort of get it? Like, have you ever let go to fear? Yes. You already know how to let go to fear. Have you ever overcome trauma? Yes. You already know how to overcome trauma. Like everyone already knows everything, but we create these illusions that we don't know. These illusions that I have to create validation in my external environment before I can feel what I already know to be true. And that's the funny thing. Like those same people with the diet and exercise, you already know the diet and exercise you want. Have you ever been healthy in your life? Yes. Everyone's been healthy in their life, so to speak. You know what I mean? If you're born disease ridden and you've always had diseases and you've always had bad health, then you are the exception. But the majority of people have experienced everything that they are seeking. But the key is we do it compulsively, subconsciously. Do you know what I mean? We don't do it with conscious thought, so we don't have any understanding or control over it. And that is the idea of mastering this one is mastering the memory of self. So remembering when I was last happy, what made me happy? How did I feel when I was happy? How do I recreate that feeling in any moment? How do I recreate that feeling within me? And not worrying about the outcome. If me thinking about someone I used to love makes me feel loved, and I do that, it doesn't matter if I'm loved or not. I feel loved. So it ceases to be of any valid reasoning that I can't feel love at any point in time. I already know the sensational experience and I already know how to access it. Therefore, I can feel it whenever I want. I don't have to wait until my external environment allows me to then let myself feel that way. Do you sort of get it? It's like these ideas of self-discipline and self-control and all of this. If you're hungry, eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Do you sort of get it? Like You don't need to discipline how you eat, but like if I'm eating to fill emotional voids in myself, telling myself I'm hungry and that's why I'm eating is a bullshit illusion. Do you sort of get it? Like our body adapts to the conditions it's in. If I overeat, my stomach becomes larger. If I undereat or fast, my stomach shrinks. If I want to alter my weight, I alter my diet so that my body alters with it. Like, do you know what I mean? It's complex shit, but it's pretty basic. Like inherently, we all know this. If I have to go through a survival situation where I cannot eat 3 meals a day, like, do I die if I only eat 1 meal a day? No. Am I hungry? Maybe. Who knows? Like, I don't know. A funny thing to understand is like to all those people who ever believe addiction's real, like all I say is go 3 days without food. Do you sort of get it? Addiction's not real. Addiction's a habit. It's habitual behavior that makes me feel comfortable. Do you sort of get it? So, like, if I'm eating 3 meals a day, like, I don't need 3 meals a day. I'm addicted to food. If I cannot go a day without food, I am addicted to food. Do you sort of get it? And then you go and you say that it's all this other bullshit. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, nothing is real in life but our decisions and our choices. I choose to eat every day. I enjoy eating every day. That doesn't mean I'm addicted to it. Should I choose to use food to overcome an emotional insecurity or an emotional trauma that I have? I am not addicted to food. I am avoiding my emotional trauma. Do you sort of get it? Like it's not an addiction. If I am addicted to alcohol because of emotional trauma or because of social anxiety or because of this or whatever, insert whatever reasoning you want. Like I am not addicted to alcohol. I am avoiding dealing with my emotional trauma or whatever it is. Do you sort of get it? Like in our actions and behaviors, like you can see what you are avoiding in life and what you are moving towards. Negative behaviors or negative behavioral manifestations, i.e., if I eat and it makes me feel depressed, like, do you sort of get it? Like, why does that happen? Because I have negative assigned emotional trauma that I'm using food to avoid. So when I reassign that emotional trauma to be positive instead of being negative, every time I feel that trauma, I feel positive. If I feel lonely, like I reassign it from being this, I have no one in life to, I get to spend all my time with myself. I can talk to God. I can talk to my ancestors. I can talk to the trees and the plants. I can talk to the birds and the animals. Like, why do I have to only talk to people? Do you sort of get it? Like, so if I alter it and I say I can talk to anything, if I feel lonely, I can just go out and talk to a tree. Every time I feel lonely, I don't go into that negative spiral of negative behaviors of, oh, I don't have anyone, this, that, and the other. No one loves me, blah, 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 blah. Like, do you sort of get it? When I deal with it, I don't need to cover it up with something. So should I want to overeat? Like I personally enjoy overeating. I enjoy eating between 1 to 2 kilos in a meal. I think it's fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like I'm not doing that negatively or outside of my control. I don't need to eat 2 to 3 kilos every 2 to 3 hours. I can do it once a day or once every 2 days because naturally that's how we used to eat. When food was available, you eat. When food is not available, You have to go out and find it. Sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a couple of days. Do you sort of get it? Like you lose the habit of always having to do it. So the reason people get hungry and think that it's trauma to go without food is because they're conditioned to always getting it. So when they don't get it, or when they have to skip a meal or this or that, like it's the uncomfortableness of the alteration of the habit or behavior that is creating the negative emotions. Do you know what I mean? It's not the physical sensation, because we can all go 3 weeks without food before dying. So it's sort of like if you cannot go 2 to 3 days without food, still feeling happy and joyful about yourself. Like, do you sort of get it? It's not that you're addicted to food, but you have a weak mind that has been conditioned to food. So we can then transfer this across everything. If I do not exercise and I sit on the couch every day, I'm conditioning my body to only using a specific amount of energy. Anytime I need to use more energy than that, my body doesn't want to, because this is how it is. So I'll feel less energy. I'll feel exhausted. Like, do you sort of get it? If I create these stories about how, like, oh, this exhausts me, that exhausts me, blah, blah, blah. This is why I can't do this. This is why I can't do it. Like, do you get it? Like, if I allow my conditioned behavior to determine the outcomes of my actions and behaviors, then I am controlled by it. I can only ever do what feels comfortable in life, i.e., it's why we have a lot of overweight people. That's why health is so bad. That's why all these different mental health is so bad. When I condition myself to always avoid my emotions, confronting my emotions becomes the most impossible task for me. When I avoid, for example, like the reason I have such a hard approach to this and such a strict mindset on this is because I condition myself for combat. I have a belief in my head that eventually there will be a war that I will have to go and fight, like the diggers in World War II, and I am going to be put in a similar situation to like Kokoda, where I don't have the luxury of, food, where I don't have the luxury of safety, where I don't have the luxury of comfort. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, I'm preparing myself for that, even if it doesn't happen, so that should it happen, I am not somewhere unfamiliar. Like, do you sort of get it? So I condition and build myself, my mindset, my levels of comfort, or my habitual behaviors to be that of someone who can survive in that situation or enjoy that situation. So we understand that there is no more difficultness to what the diggers had to go through to what you have to go through. Do you sort of get it? Like, if I see having to fight and die in Kokoda as being a positive, enjoyable experience, it's not that difficult. If I see my life as being this slog and struggle of, oh, my life is bad, my health is out of control, I have no control over it, my mindset's weak and out of control, and I have no control over it, my emotions are out of control. Like, I can create worse conditions than I would even experience in the middle of combat. Like, do you sort of get it? So, like, I can create the reality around me or the environment around me based on how I perceive my environments around me. So, for me, I put everything back to, if it's pouring rain for 3 days in the mud and I'm having to sleep in soaked, wet clothes without access to fresh water, without access to, medical attention, without access to food. Like, do you sort of get it? Like, I'm conditioning myself to always have that as the expectation of a potential reality. Is my reality that bad? Do I not have access to food? Do I not have access to water? Am I sleeping in the mud, covered in cuts and bruises and insect bites and all of this? Like, am I in real discomfort? Do you sort of get it? Like, it's the perception shift. So you find whatever perception you want. It can be as hard or as soft as you want it to be. So, for example, like David Goggins goes out there every day and he tries to push his perception further than what he can even imagine. Like, do you sort of get it? So he's not comparing himself, so to speak, to the diggers, but he's comparing himself to yesterday or all of the things he's been through. So we can do that. We can find something external to us or something internal to us. And these are just ideals. And ideals are fantasies. They're scenarios, imagination. Like they're not based in reality. Do you sort of get it? Like they're based in real events, but we're idolizing. So, for example, when I think about what the diggers have to go through, I amplify it to be worse because of two reasons. One, I wasn't there, so I didn't experience it, so I don't know what it was like. But two, I don't want to make it less than what it could have been. So I make it as bad as I can, or as sort of extreme as I can, so that it sets a tempo of expectation for how bad it can be. Like when you can't sleep for days. Why? Because every 20, 30 minutes, people are attacking and trying to kill you. Like, like when all you have is sitting there waiting for the next sign of the attack. Like sitting there with your thoughts, with all that you've seen, with all that you've gone through, your injuries. Like, do you sort of get it? Like hoping and wishing. Like it makes it easier to be able to push through anything in life when we're able to put ourselves into these extreme examples. Like, do you sort of get it? Should someone attack me on the street? Like, it's not going to be as bad as the diggers went through in Kokoda. Do you know what I mean? So I'm able to be happy in the attack on the street because it's not like that's where I've said as being the expectation for what is allowed to be perceived as negative. You sort of get it? So we just understand that I am creating and shaping the positive and the negative. I can choose to live in the positive. I can choose to live in the negative. Do you sort of get it? Like I get to choose where I live. So I can focus in on the most beautiful, positive aspects of life, or I can focus in on the most negative aspects of life. And like a magnet, use that polarity to either attract me or repulse me. Do you sort of get it? Like I'm utilizing either my push away from what I don't want to ever experience, or I'm using my pull to what I want to experience. So I can use it as like, you know, all the places that I want to see. I can use or amplify different cultures, learning about different cultures, experiencing different cultures, traveling, connecting with people. Like I can create all the most positive things, and then these become the markers. So, like for example, if we wanted to get rid of violence and all of that, we're focusing in on these aspects of life, on love, on, you know, compassion, empathy, and all of that. And we're finding or creating these scenarios or these ideals of what they mean to me. And then these are what we strive for. So, like, for example, with me, I strive to be able to be comfortable in the middle of the Battle of Kokoda. That's where I strive to be comfortable there. In the worst of the worst, I want to be feeling like I'm in a garden. Do you sort of get it? That's what I condition myself to. but I could condition myself to, being as empathetic as Mother Teresa, having as much compassion, being able to push through because she didn't do it out of fear of negative. She did it out of compassion and love. So we're able to use whatever we want to do and we make them positive. So for me, the idea of having to, sleep in the mud and fight through Kokoda and go without food and all of that, like it's positive to me. Like you are literally taking yourself and you are pushing to the most extreme limitations of what is humanly possible. Like many have marched and walked the Kokoda Trail. I have not yet, but I want to. But many have walked the Kokoda Trail, and it's not easy terrain. It's very difficult terrain. And a funny thing to realize, especially in World War II, is the Papua New Guineans. So while the diggers slogged through Kokoda in their boots and all of this, the Sherps or serfs or whatever you call them, like the Papua New Guineans, walked through barefoot. Like this was just a Sunday stroll for them. Do you know what I mean? Like as sort of as strong and as determined as the Australians were, they were not conditioned to the Kokoda Trail like the Papua New Guineans. The Papua New Guineans could carry two, three, four, five times as much as the Australians. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all about that conditioning and that understanding that to the Papua New Guineans, this was not something new. To the Australians, this was something new. So we understand this even in the Himalayas with the Nepalese. They're able to, and Peru, wherever you go to a place where there is extreme terrain, the native inhabitants or those who have been there for generation after generation after generation are acclimatized and accustomed to the experience that that terrain gives. So it's not a new experience for them. So we just understand if we take that example, okay, like that's the goal, is to be able to walk the Kokoda Trail, so to speak, like the Papua New Guineans did. Not worried about the bugs, not worried about the insects, not worried about food and water, not worried about having shoes or how difficult the terrain is, not worrying about the weather, because it's not something abstract to them. It's something that is a part of them. You sort of understand it's like recently when I walked across country, I did it in the middle of summer in 30 to 45-degree temperatures. But this is not something new for me. The heat is always in Queensland. So many people ask me, how do you deal with the heat? Drink more water. The more water I drink, the more I sweat. The more I sweat, the cooler I am. Like, I don't have to worry about the heat because, like, I already know that, like, if I just drink a lot of water, like, I sweat a lot. So my clothes are wet. So if there's a breeze, it cools me down a lot. Like, do you sort of know what I mean? Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you don't even need to consider it. Does that make sense? Like I could sit out there and think, oh, this is the hottest day that it's been, blah, 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 blah. But it's gonna be hot. You know that from the beginning. So, like, if you take it with anything in life, like you already know, if I want to achieve a certain thing, like let's say get into my ideal health, it's going to be difficult. It's going to require sacrifice. The number one sacrifice is this idea of like luxury and comfort. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the luxury to eat McDonald's every day if I want to be healthy. I don't seek comfort food if I want to be healthy. I make healthy food comfortable. Does that make sense? So, like, we're just going and we're altering and shifting these things because when we do this, It alters and shifts our reality. When I accepted that it was going to be hot and that I was going to be covered in sweat, like when I was covered in sweat, it was relief. Everything was going exactly as I'd planned. Do you know what I mean? Like for the Papua New Guineans in the Kokoda Trail, like they've walked this trail thousands of times. Like they've just accepted this is how it is. In the monsoon season, it rains a lot. Like it's a rainforest. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they're not worried, like, oh, it's raining today. Like that's just how it is. Like it's quite funny like that because it's in that acceptance of just accepting that it is what it is. We are where we are. Life is what it is. So I can let go to the fear and not need to hold on to the fear or the comfort or the discomfort or the pain or whatever it is, and just accept this is what it is. I get to choose. Am I having a good day because of this or a bad day because of this? Like, if I've accepted this is what it is every day, like I still get to have a good day. Do you know what I mean? So, like with the walk in the heat, I just accepted the heat was what it was. So I stopped measuring my enjoyment of the day if I was cool or if I was hot. If I was hot, I drank more water. If I was cool, I drank less water. But like in all honesty, like it didn't get over 50 degrees. Do you know what I mean? There was a couple of days up there at 40 degrees, 45 degrees, but like, you know what I mean? When we get over 45 degrees, yeah, then it's hot. Anything under that, and it's not really that hot. It was breeze. Like we find all the silver linings for why we're allowed to be happy, and we don't worry about that thing. So, like for example, if you're like me and you have injury and pain and things like that, a lot of people I speak to, especially around pain, they're trying to get to this idea of pain free. Like for me personally, I've just accepted like my life is pain. Growing up, for me, when I was a teenager and developing, anytime I wanted to run, I had to run through 15, 20 minutes of what felt like my Achilles tendons and calf muscles tearing before I felt comfortable. Do you know what I mean? And the only reason that went away is because I pushed through it. If I didn't push through it, it would always be a problem. Like sometimes we have to get over this idea of comfort and just understand that like if I want to be pain free, I have to reshape my perspective of what true pain is. Do you know what I mean? Like I've experienced that level of pain to where it causes you to cry, where it causes you to feel like you're, so to speak, not so to speak dying, but where you feel like your body is tearing itself apart. Like, you know what I mean? Like pain doesn't really bother me because for so many years I had to live with it. So I just don't measure how I feel in the moment based on if I'm in pain or not. I just accept that pain is a part of life. Pain is a part of growth. So when I'm in pain, I'm growing. Now, that doesn't say if I'm walking and I kick my toe and I freaking hurt my toe, like it hurts. So punch the wall. Do you know what I mean? Put yourself in more pain. That's how you get over the pain, or you can sit there and coddle it. Do you know what I mean? Like pain is a sensory stimulant. If I create stimulation somewhere else, the data to my brain becomes overwhelmed. So if I kick my toe and I'm in pain and then I start hitting my knuckles on a brick wall, I don't hit my knuckles to break my knuckles, but I hit my knuckles to create pain. Now I am taking control of the pain I feel. I can hit harder. I can hit softer. I can scrape my knuckles on there. I can create all different kinds of sensory data to override the sensory data that's being sent from my tone. Do you sort of get it? Like it's not something outside of our control. If I feel pain in life, if I don't feel pain in life, like, do you sort of get it? If I feel pain in life, I create the pain I want to feel. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a slave to the pain I feel. Do you know what I mean? If I want to live pain free, I stop acknowledging the pain. Like, pain doesn't go away in life in terms of every action in life is going to create pain. If I lay on the couch and be comfortable and try and avoid pain, I am only creating pain down the road. If I go out there and I want to better myself and get healthy and exercise and get into shape, like I have to go through pain to do it. If I want to overeat, like there's pain associated with that. Like there's pain associated with everything in life. So to all those people who want to live pain free, it's sort of like that's like trying to say I want to live without breathing. You can try and do it, but the only way to truly do it is to die. So it's sort of like now what do I want to choose? What I'm seeking in life? Do I want to have a level of pain threshold, like pain tolerance to where I don't notice pain? That's pretty easy. Every time I go into highly painful situations, I just choose not to notice it and say that I'm a bitch if I notice it. Do you know what I mean? Now, this isn't to say that we avoid pain or we dismiss pain at the expense of injury, because that's completely different. Like if I kick my toe and I break my toe, I don't boot a tree with that same toe. Do you sort of get it? Like that's a bit idiotic because we're only going to lead to creating more damage. So, like for example, if I have like spinal or nerve pain, like I don't push the pain to the point of creating more damage within my nervous system or my spinal cord. That would be silly. That leads to prolonged, you know, deficiencies in my capability. If I do severe nerve damage to my hand, I cease to have the functionality of my hand. So it's like it's not to say that we are acting in an an unaccountable way towards pain. It's that if I have pain, I take accountability for it. I'm in pain, I accept it. This is painful. And then I choose. Do I want to ignore that pain? Do I need to deal with that pain? Is that pain something that is sharp and acute to where if I create sensational stimulation, I can override or create or flood my brain with so much data that it's hard for it to decipher what is what? Do you sort of get it? Like it's all just data. If I'm in pain of my thoughts, overthinking, stressed, do I want to focus in on that stress and allow that stress to take control, or do I want to create even more stress about something that is completely ridiculous and overload my brain with ridiculous stress? Do you sort of get it? Like I can amplify pain with pain, or I can amplify pain with sensational stimulation or sensory stimulation. So, like, for example, if we take physical pain, when I kick my toe, I can put my hand under ice cold water, then hot water, then ice cold water, then hot water, then ice cold water, then hot water. And my brain is having to decipher between the different sensations that I'm experiencing. I can blow. on my hand. I can create, like, it's focus. If all my focus is allowed to focus in on the pain, it amplifies the feeling of that pain. If my focus cannot discern the pain, it does not know how to assign feeling to that pain. Do you sort of get it? So if I focus really in on my hand after I kick my toe and I blow on it and I try to feel all the different sensations and stimulations, and I really focus all my attention there, I don't have any attention to be assigned to my toe. My toe goes into a dull ache and then it sort of goes away. Have you ever noticed that? When we don't focus on pain, it sort of just fades away. This is the key. So we can either, in times of acute pain, we can amplify it. We can create new pain. We can create different pain. We can create different sensations and amplify them. Like, it doesn't really matter. So, like, a test to do is you can do it like this if you want. Go out and kick your toe as hard as you can against a tree or a pole. Have a bucket of ice there and jam your hand into the bucket of ice and focus on your hand in the ice and jam it around. See how much that toe hurts. See if you can't change or alter your association from it. Now, you can take that in the physical sense and kick your toe against a pole or a tree as hard as you can and probably break it. Or you can wait until you're in pain next time and then try something similar. So it's sort of like create a process of distraction, but not where we're trying to distract ourselves, but where we're trying to create new data and overload it with new data. And then that is the way to alter it. So, like, for example, we add that practice now in with conditioning. If every time I kick my toe, I go and I run my hand under cold water for the sensory stimulation. Do you sort of get it? Like, every time I'm in pain, I will condition in the urge to put my hand under cold water, and then I will feel relief from it. Pavlov's dog. The bell associated to the meat created salivation within the dog. The bell without the meat still created salivation within the dog. If I overcome the sensation of pain through a behavior and condition that behavior in every time I feel pain, when I do that, when I'm in pain and I do that behavior, or even when I do that behavior outside of pain, I will feel the relief that I get. Like, do you understand? So I can then condition in a behavioral response that every time I put my hand under cold water, I feel pain relief. So it takes a fair bit of understanding and conditioning and a fair bit of time to condition this in. But that's how malleable the mind is. That's how malleable our external environment is. That's how malleable our life is. So I can either choose to live my life in a state of play without seriousness, with that aspect of ridiculousness that should I kick my toe and I'm in pain, I create more pain. I overcome that situation. Or I can live my life in the seriousness of life where when I'm in pain, it means this. Pain means that. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.